Hello, and welcome to another episode of Todd Talks. When Todd Talks, people listen. Must I show you my superiority? Hopefully. And today we have what I'm going to call one of the most controversial Todd Talks ever. Because if you recall what I said in my death battle reaction to Shadow versus Ryuko, I said a certain thing about the death battle we're about to talk about, and I want to say I'm sorry. I want to say sorry to Death Battle. I want to say sorry to Ben Singer and Chad James and the team behind this, because I forgot something. I forgot something very, very important. And I hope that with this video that I'm about to do, you'll see why I and you, the viewers at home who agreed with me, should be sorry that we ever doubted this matchup. And just wait till the end. Yeah, this is gonna be good. So we're here today to talk about Lex Luthor versus Doctor Doom, two returning combatants to Death Battle. Lex had faced Iron Man and lost, and Doom fought Darth Vader and won. So, question is, who's going to win in these battle of doom-filled, egomaniac supervillains? Supervillains. It's going to be interesting. I promise you that. I was not this excited a couple hours ago, let me tell you. All right, so Lex Luthor, or Alexander Joseph Luthor, as noted in his Death Battle preview, he's had a lot of different origins over the years. He was a mad scientist. He was a former friend of Superman / Superboy. He was a businessman. He was president. And in the DC Rebirth era, I'm not even going to go into that one. It's weird. But needless to say, he always ends up the same way. He is a man who is convinced of his own genius, which he has, and turns himself one way or another into one of the ultimate rivals of Superman, mainly because he feels that Superman is a crutch. Like, if you want to boil it down to everything, he feels Superman is a crutch, because as long as Superman exists and the people believe in him, they're not going to believe in themselves, and thus they can't grow as a species, and thus humanity will become inferior in its own way. So Lex Luthor is determined to kill Superman, or at the very least to power him, and so that humanity, via his leadership, obviously, can rise up and become what they're supposed to be. Well, aren't you egotistical? Yes. Yes, he is. So, as noted, over the many continuities of DC Comics, Lex Luthor has done this quest in various ways, including being a mad scientist, an epic businessman voiced by Clancy Brown, and, of course, the war suit version of Lex Luthor. The war suit has had many iterations over the years. The one in the 2000s, which kind of really where it got to popularity, was made in the Fires of Apocalypse, made by Darkseid himself, and then augmented with technology by both Lex Luthor and Brainiac. So kind of the big three of Superman villains, if you really think about it. And he used that war suit to create something that he felt could go up against Superman, the other members of the Justice League, and so on and so forth. Now, as we saw in the battle with the Iron Man, while the suit is powerful, it has a limit. It has a limit, especially when Superman goes all out, because you could argue that Superman rarely, if ever, goes all out against Lex Luthor, because he knows that even at his core, he's still human, a very augmented human, but a human nonetheless. And so Superman often has to restrain himself, and Lex takes advantage of that to try and get the upper hand in their fights. But the suit is still incredibly powerful, able to lift many, many tons. It has all sorts of weaponry, and when we left off, with Iron Man versus Lex Luthor, it hadn't gotten, let's call it, extra dimensional abilities. It was still very much grounded in science. Because after that death battle, which was, I should have looked up the date. It's at least 5 years, at least. Multiple years, which is a lifetime in comics. Lex Luthor got some power upgrades. Yeah. You see, at the end of the New 52 line, there was an event where, I'm just going to boil it down here. Darkseid went up against the Anti-Monitor, aka Mobius, and their war created what was called a bunch of new gods. All right, and the new gods were the Justice League. All right, Superman became a dark god of apocalypse because he fell, and Lex pushed him in. He became imbued with the sunlight of apocalypse, which was a negative sun energy, which made him, let's just say, dark. It also killed him in the end, but that's another story entirely. Shazam got a whole bunch of new gods to power him up because he lost his connection to the wizard, and Batman became the ruler of the Mobius chair, and that's what started the Three Jokers storyline. It's a thing, but within that one, Lex got access to a mother box, which is, if you remember the Snyder Cut, which is great, was a change machine, to quote Cyborg, and it was a technology vastly beyond anything Luthor had ever used before. And so, imbuing his armor with the mother box, he was able to create a suit of armor that modeled Superman, because remember, this was when right before Superman had died, to model the Superman symbol and become the true protector of Metropolis, until pre-Flashpoint Superman came back, and I'm not getting into this, but let's just say another Superman showed up and kind of proved that, hey, this isn't really going to work for you. So Lex tried to be a good guy multiple times, didn't really work out, and so he went back to his old ways, and this is where the key change comes, okay? Because even with the mother box, you could argue that Lex has no chance against Doctor Doom. This is the whole point of why a lot of us were mad about this matchup, because we thought, well, this is kind of stupid because Lex Luthor just has a suit and Doctor Doom's is obviously a lot better, even with teleportation and dimensional traveling with the Mother Box. Then came... I can't believe I forgot the storyline. I do apologize. Then came the Doom storyline. Because you see, after DC Rebirth happened and everything kind of got reshuffled and re-expanded upon, an event known as the Totality. Okay, I gotta. Oh, this is gonna be hard. Okay, there was a thing called DC Comics Dark Knight's Metal. Okay, and in that comic, and in that series, I'm really gonna boil this down here. In that series, the heroes of the Justice League had to go up against what was known as the Dark Multiverse, basically an infinite reality multiverse that was negative, not in terms of emotions, but in terms of results. So imagine, instead of Superman crashing to Earth and becoming a savior, he became basically Brightburn from James Gunn and just destroyed everybody. That world would be in a negative multiverse. The world would end and thus not resume in the regular multiverse. So the heroes of the Justice League and beyond had to work together to team up to defeat that metal, all right? The metal of the dark multiverse. It's really complicated. I still don't understand most of it myself. But when they did that, they broke through the source wall. The source wall was the literal wall of the universe, and it divided what was from the greater exoverse. Just roll with me on this. And when that happened, an event known as the Totality came. The Totality was meant to be a massive change in the universe. And Lex Luthor knew that, because in the Death Battle preview, that one about his father experimenting on Martian Manhunter, yeah, that was part of something that had to deal with the Totality. And there are, not unlike everything in the universe, there is a balance. There is the light form of the Totality, or Justice, which became the new symbol of the Justice League, led by Martian Manhunter. And then there was the Doom symbol. Because much like there is a speed force and the power of Kryptonians and the emotional spectrum and certain other primordial forces in the universe, there so also was the opposite. There was a name for it, I don't remember now, but basically how it has to do with the Totality. There are other forces in the DC multiverse that are on the level of things like the speed force, the emotional spectrum, and beyond, and the power of the gods. So Lex, having I'm not going to get into it, but let's just say his past revealed to him in truth, he reassembled the Legion of Doom and set on a quest to bring true doom to Earth and make them realize that only through doom would they be able to be better, to evolve, to grow. And by collecting the 7 different marks of the Totality, which include things like the still force, and the ultraviolet spectrum, which is the invisible spectrum of the emotional spectrum. Not getting into this. Can you tell this is complicated? This is why I probably forgot it, because it was just so complicated. Anyway, so after unlocking all of this, he was able to resurrect the mother of the multiverse, Perpetua, or Perpetua, however you want to. I always call her Perpetua, but it's Perpetua. And so if you remember, like the World Forger, if you remember the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, that's their mom, literally. Okay? And Perpetua had one goal. She knew the entities that created the source, like the literal source of the universe. She was guided by them to make the multiverse and just stop. Okay? To make the multiverse and just let things run their course. She couldn't. She felt that there was a better way to make the universe as strong as possible, and she made what she called apex predators. This is going to make sense, I promise. No, it's not, but I will try. So she makes the apex predators, and through her children, Monitor, Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger, she was locked in the source wall. See, it connects. And when the source wall was broken, she was able to get free to an extent. And then Lex, with the Legion of Doom, was able to gather the forces needed to give her her full power back. Why does this matter? It matters because when Lex did this, and he literally sacrificed himself to Perpetua, he died and was resurrected as Apex Lex, or the Apex Predator Luthor. This version of Lex Luthor is specifically stated to be half human, half Martian. Mm-hmm. And then when you read the story, which is absolutely nuts, it's Scott Snyder. If you thought Zack Snyder wrote complicated stories at the time, look at Zack Snyder and everything he's done with the death metal, rebirth, and everything. It's nuts. But I love both the Snyders. So could you imagine if they did a story together? Anyway, but as Apex Lex, he actually was able to trick Martian Manhunter and actually absorb Martian Manhunter into his own suit. So he is half Martian, half human, and has the literal body and mind of Martian Manhunter on him. That's crazy. And it's this form that actually can potentially, and I won't spoil my pick, but potentially could take on Doctor Doom. Why? Because this version has the powers of a Martian in the DC universe. And if you recall, the Martians are some of the most powerful DC characters around. That's partially why they were all wiped out, because, plot. But Martian Manhunter alone is able to tackle all of the Justice League, including Superman, and has fought him many times. Has fought Wonder Woman multiple times. He's got super speed, super strength, invisibility, intangibility, size manipulation, down to the molecule. That's a Martian trait. They can change their body down to the molecule. He has heat vision, insane durability, regeneration, and so much more. And now Lex has that. And to prove just how insane Apex Lex is, when he went full Apex mode, he took on the entire Justice League, which at the time had Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, John Stewart, the Flash, Hawkgirl with her nth metal mace, Starman, who was powered by the totality because of retcons, obviously, and so many more. He took them all down. He even fought Superman toe-to-toe and won. He was sliced in half by Wonder Woman and regenerated and blasted her away. He took on the Batman Who Laughs, took down his entire Secret Six, cured them of the dark multiverse infection, and was able to present the Batman Who Laughs to Perpetua, or Perpetua. I call her Perpetua. It's just how I read it. And achieved his victory. Right, wrong, because the biggest weakness of Apex Lex, or Lex Luthor in general, is his mind. He thinks that his plans are so foolproof that nothing can go wrong, and the Batman last tricked him, and Perpetua actually ripped Apex Lex's powers from him. But that's the catch. A literal multiversal god had to depower Lex Luthor. It wasn't done on his own. And so that is why this matchup makes so much more sense, because of the Doom storyline in DC Comics that created Apex Lex. And so I am sorry, I read the story, I forgot the story, because when they showed the preview, all they showed was like him in the armor and him in the cartoon, which obviously have not done Apex Lex. And so That's why this matchup is much more exciting. So stay tuned. Moving on now to Victor Von Doom, the child of a of a gypsy father and a devil worshipper. Comics. After his mother was basically unwittingly sold her soul to Mephisto. See, Mephisto, it does exist, just not in WandaVision. Spoilers. Uh, and his father died trying to protect him after they were on the run from a baron, apparently. He dedicated his life to science and sorcery. He wanted to master both so that he could be the master of all. And eventually he got into a renowned college where he tried to make a machine that would allow him to contact his dead mother. It blew up in his face, obviously, and gave him a single scar. That scar was enough to break his mind and have him flee to Tibet to go and join an order of monks. Those monks made him a special titanium alloy armor that, when put upon him, and I'm quoting the Darth Vader Doom fight here, severed his connection to the physical world and created a cold engine of logic. And so he took the name Doctor Doom. And this is where the fun comes in. Because if there's one thing Doctor Doom loves to do, it's just be Doctor Doom. He is one of the most cunning minds in all of Marvel Comics. He is, as stated in the Death Battle, second in intelligence only to Mr. Fantastic. Second is sorcery, only to Dr. Stephen Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. And even when Stephen lost Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Doom was actually one of the highest contenders to take his mantle, but because he angered gods, because he's Doctor Doom, that didn't happen. But he could have been. He could have been. And he was also Iron Man for a spell, but we're not getting into that. So, as now Doctor Doom, he went to his home country of Latveria, where he was born and chased out, and he conquered it and turned it into a nation, one nation under doom. And yeah, you pretty much know the story from here. He has spent his life trying to conquer the world via his various technological advances and his ability to not only create, but plan and do just absolutely insane things. Not the least of which was the time where he created a time machine so he could see all the realities and see all the potential futures. And he found that one, Doom World, was one that was the one and only true future universe, at the time at least, that was not in need or in want of anything. His rule literally created a perfect world, and even the Bast, the cat god of Wakanda, agreed with him and then allowed him to get vibranium for something or whatever. It's comics. What do you want? So yeah, that's why he keeps trying to take over the world, because he truly feels that once he does that, the world is going to be fine. The problem is he's just such a dick about it. Like, he doesn't hide the fact that he's trying to take over the world, but if he actually put his mind to things, he could actually probably save the world 1,000 times over. But he doesn't, because he feels that his path, his way, is the only right way. And so that's what puts him in constant conflict with the Fantastic Four, with the Avengers, with the gods in space, and so on and so forth. Because he doesn't mind screwing over and doing whatever it takes to get the power he needs to do what he needs to, or what he wants to. Such as when, if you recall the death battle with Darth Vader, when he sacrificed his only love so that he could get special powers and actually wore her skin as a suit. Ew. And in a more recent comic, in the Dan Slott Fantastic Four run, which I highly recommend, he was able to lure Galactus to Earth, Galactus, World Eater, and drain his power, the power cosmic, so that he could power Latveria forever, and then show the world that he is truly superior. He trapped Galactus in a mountain and left him there. And then right after that, he trapped all of the Fantastic Four. So, and that was just one comic issue. We can also talk about Secret Wars, where I really am not going to dive in this one, but let's just say that via a series of events, the multiverse collapsed, worlds died left and right, and at the last possible moment, via rigorous Batman-esque planning, because Dr. Doom was able to stitch together various parts of former realities in the multiverse and create one world under Doom called Battle World. And when I say alternate realities, I do mean like alternate realities. Like there's, no, I'm not getting into this, but it was unique. All right, and Doom ruled over it as God because he was powered at the time by the Molecule Man, and that power allowed him to rule for 8 years in peace until Reed Richards showed up, and yeah, things fell apart. Because if there is a weakness to Doctor Doom, it's his ego. Boy, it really sounds familiar. Um, Doctor Doom is such a I guess let's just boil it down. An egomaniac. He is such an egomaniac that he can't stand it when his intelligence is questioned, especially when it's compared to Reed Richards. In the Secret Wars comic, he had the 8 years of peace, but once Reed Richards showed up, and once some people started to question whether he was who he thought he was, that's when Doom totally lost it. He killed Doctor Strange, who was his advisor for 8 years, because Strange said that Doom was afraid of what Reed might do in his world, and he just snaps and kills him. They were basically friends for 8 years, if Doom can have friends. And yet once Reed Richards was brought up, killed him right on the spot. And then when Doom and Reed clashed over the fate of Battleworld and the entire multiverse, Reed tricked him into saying that Reed could have done a better job ruling the world. And Doom had even mentioned that even though he was God, he felt it was a flawed reign. So he finally obtained the powers of a god, and he still wasn't happy. Like, come on, man! So yeah, and I really do say that his one true weakness is his ego, because his armor is so OP. It's been able to withstand the Infinity Gauntlet. It has parts of the cross, the one true cross, so he can fight Dracula, which he has done. It's able to withstand energy blasts. It has protective barriers. It allows him to channel magic and energy and do absorption and teleport and everything. And I haven't even mentioned Doombots. So there you go. I mentioned it. Doombots. You know they're going to show up in the fight, so be ready. And so on and so forth. His will is indomitable. He withstood the Purple Man at like point blank range, which is not supposed to happen. His mind cannot be conquered at all. His armor was resistant to telekinesis. He took a hit from the Silver Surfer and was not affected at all. And Silver Surfer is, of course, power cosmic. So Doom fails all the time because Doom lets himself fail all the time. I mean he lets himself get into a sense of overconfidence. For example, remember when I was telling you about when he trapped Galactus in a mountain and then trapped the Fantastic Four? He specifically made the 4 prisons for the Fantastic Four based on their powers. He stretched Mr. Fantastic to the point where his skin could break if he went any further. He I can't remember what he did with Johnny, but he put Sue in a state where she couldn't turn invisible or use her force field. He perfectly made each prison to their power so that they couldn't do anything to him. Except he failed to realize that when they're together, even when they're separated, they're quite unstoppable. And so Sue Sue used her powers to get out of the situation because he underestimated them. And that's what he does all the time. He underestimates his foes because he just can't get over the fact that he's not perfect. He's just not. But Doom does what Doom does, and thus he keeps going. And so, even after having multiple tries to try and be a hero, and even trying to be Iron Man for a while, he eventually abandoned all of that, became the Doom we all know and love to hate, and that's where we are right now. So, yeah, it's a lot. And again, and Doom is stated to be one of the most OP characters in all of Marvel Comics. I mean, to list all the things that he can do would take quite a while. But between magical sorcery, technological mastery, did I say magical sorcery? His knowledge of magic and sorcery, his mastery of technology, his own abilities that allow him to do things like detect all sorts of life form. He has his own kind of telepathy and telekinesis. He has that a size amplifier, which can turn like little pebbles into large boulders, that kind of thing. He's a lot. So, as we enter the 25-minute mark, who wins in a fight between Lex Luthor and Doctor Doom. It's not who you think. I told you this is controversial. This is where things get tricky, because up to Mother Box Lex Luthor, Doctor Doom has this. It's not even close. His strength, his intelligence. I'm gonna actually put the intelligence over here. Between his strength, his natural strategy that he uses in fights, his magic, his technology, his Doom bots, Lex would be overwhelmed. It's not even close. It's just not. That would be a stomp. But Apex Lex, not so much. Okay, remember, this is a Martian hybrid of Luthor, a version which can go toe-to-toe with Superman, with Wonder Woman, and everything. That took a literal multiversal god to strip him of his powers and to lose a fight. Martians are no joke. Their list of powers are near endless. Strength, speed, durability, regeneration, heat vision, telepathy, telekinesis, mind, like literal mind control, phasing, I think I said invisibility, but visibility again. All right. Longevity. It's insane. And Lex has all those powers. And though he does not have the feats of Doctor Doom in Apex Lex form, the time that we saw him go all out against the Justice League, all the Justice League, he crushed them. All of them. Period. End of story. Wasn't even that hard. And this is where things get bad for Doom. Because one thing I didn't mention was that Lex has access to all the forces of the totality that he collected to bring back Perpetua, or whatever. All right? And one of them is known as the Still Force. The Still Force is an entity of entropy and inertia. Long story short, if the Speed Force makes you go fast, the Still Force makes you go slow. In a fight between Gorilla Grodd, who was using, I kid you not, the baby of a villain known as the Turtle, which is a real Flash villain, he made it so that the Flash went so slowly that it would take him a decade to cross a room. And this is a primordial force of the universe. This is not energy. This is not energy per se. It's not a tangible energy, I guess you should say. It is a primordial force of the universe. And if the Flash, with the Speed Force, with his speed healing, and all of his intelligence, could not overcome this, that's a problem. And then if you think, oh, that's just a one-up, no. When Lex used it against the Flash in his fight against the Justice League. Again, Lex versus all the Justice League. He used it to turn Barry Allen into an old man. He literally sped up time so that Barry was old and crippled and couldn't do anything. He used the ultraviolet spectrum to literally make every single construct that John Stewart had made in his career as a Green Lantern and just dropped it on him. He was cut in half by Wonder Woman, who said the absolutely epic line, "Heart, I don't see no heart here, Luthor." And he healed himself and blasted her away like it was nothing. He resisted the mind control of Jarro. Yes, Jarro, look it up. And was able to shapeshift his body and impale the sucker and then defeat Batman. And when he fought with Superman, he took a punch from him, and Superman wasn't holding back. He took a punch from him, and it did nothing. It did nothing. He traded blows to Superman, and it did nothing. Now, you say, well, wait a minute, that Apex Lex has to have a weakness. He has one. And no, it's not ego. It's actually fire. Martians are weak to fire. And in the battle with Batman Who Laughs, who of course knew this weakness, he used it against Lex Luthor to temporarily limit his powers. But that's a problem right there, because Dr. Doom is not going to know that his weakness is fire. Could he extrapolate it via his great intelligence? Absolutely. But would it be enough? That's the question. Because when the Batman Who Laughs did it, he, not unlike Doom, left Luthor alive. He was like, I've won. I've already beaten you. And then Lex summoned his power suit, his war suit, and defeated him. and the rest of his secret six while curing them. Now, yes, it was part of Batman Who Laughs' grander plan, but the defeat was still meaningful in its own right. And that's where the fun comes in, because this really is a battle of egos. And Lex, you could argue, is smarter than Doom, because remember, Doom is less smart. He's not as smart as Reed Richards, who is the smartest man in his universe. Lex is specifically stated to be a 12th level intellect, able to match the brain power of Brainiac 5 from 31st century. Okay, the Legion of Superheroes, and he solved the anti-life equation, which was not supposed to be possible for him, but he did it because he's that smart. He was overqualified. All right, and when he sees that Doom, in all of his ego, is going to, boast, because let's just say Doom does figure out that his Martian body is weak to fire. Lex will use that against him. He will find a way to use that against him. The reason that Lex lost to Iron Man was because his war suit was specifically designed to face Kryptonians and certain other super beings. And Iron Man had the ability to go well beyond his regular armor and suit up to whatever the situation needed. Lex couldn't. This is Apex Lex. And if you're thinking, are you sure they're going to use Apex Lex? Yes, because thanks to Luis, the cover of the song track is called Apex of Doom, and it has the Doom symbol from Perpetua. So yeah, Apex Lex is here, and I'm actually going to pick him. Yes, I am picking Apex Lex to defeat Doom. Now, I'm not sure how they're going to do the killing blow, but between the Still Force, the Ultraviolet Spectrum, and all the other elements of the totality that he can use, and his own natural abilities, which again is phasing and super strength and super speed and so on and so forth, Lex might actually be able to pull this off. I'm not 100% certain. I will not say I'm 100% certain here, but I totally 360'd on this thing, and that's the complete turnaround. I have 180'd on this thing, and I am going to say that Apex Lex is going to pull an upset and beat Doctor Doom. Yeah. I can't believe it either. But, if I go 1 and 2, I'm going to at least go out swinging. So with that, I'm ending this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win in a fight between Lex Luthor and Doctor Doom? And how do you think it's going to go? Now, apparently, according to Luis, this is the longest fight in the season so far, which is actually rather impressive. So this is going to be special, and I really hope I win. So again, let me know in the comments below. So I thank you for watching. You've made it as far. I know you were listening, and I'll see you around.